I love Nora McInerny, author of many books such as Bad Vibes Only, Hot Young Widows Club, No Happy Endings, host of the Terrible Thanks for Asking podcast, and just all around highly relatable superhuman. I've had her on the podcast before. And this is a super, super fun, weird episode and a little bit of a departure from the typical love and relationship episode that you're used to hearing here. Nora and I just jam for 30 minutes about Arizona politics, not reading self-help, liberals living in conservative states. And then the internet drops off several times during this interview. We also talk about vulnerability porn, crying on Instagram, how my life is not all good vibes and toxic positivity. We talk about both of our unhealthy relationships to social media, how to love people that we deeply disagree with, and that you never really know what's going on with people in their daily life. And of course, we talk about her new book, Bad Vibes Only. I love Nora McInerny, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording. Hey, Nora.
Hello, Sean.
We were just gabbing, and we decided to just start the recording now, just to get some of this gold.
Absolutely.
And this conversation is unscripted, right?
Yep.
I didn't write any of this down. And we both live in Arizona.
We do. Welcome. Isn't it wonderful?
It is. It's taking me a little bit of a transition, though, because I think it's not Arizona that I'm struggling with. It's the United States of America.
Amen. Amen. And I will say, like, we live in very different kinds of Arizona.
Yeah.
Like climate wise, you live in a place with seasons. I live in a place where it's just perpetual summer, different versions of summer. Even our winter is warmer than many people's summer. But one thing that sort of is, I think, like across the board in Arizona is like the politics.
Yeah. We all have the same politics.
Yeah. Real consistently, aggressively conservative politics. And that said, I live in a neighborhood with a great diversity of thought and belief and income levels and, cultural backgrounds and race. And, I think when I get overwhelmed with like the state of the world, and specifically the state of America, like I have to focus in really small and be like, okay, but in my little circle, like, people are treating people like people.
Yeah.
Like we can still do that, right? Like we can still have our own sphere of influence. And if I focus on that, I am less likely to fall into abject despair.
That's interesting. So I am flying a pride flag outside my house, and my neighbor's dogs are named Trigger and Buckshot. So that shows you. And these people are so nice.
Yeah.
They are so nice. And
I
was having a conversation with my friend about politics and about the state of the United States and how we are just a blend and a mix of a ton of different cultures, micro cultures. Yeah. And he said something that I found pretty interesting. Let's say we'll pick pro-life and pro-choice. He goes, I bet you have more in common with these people than you are different from them.
Yeah. I think about that all the time. I really do, because I don't think anybody with very strong beliefs of any kind thinks of themselves as a hateful person, an intolerant person, a person who doesn't care about other people. I think that any deeply held belief, like you believe that is the most loving belief. And so I really do struggle with, having very, very different beliefs than even people that I love, even people that I care about, or, complete strangers, and having that sort of blind me to the fact that they are still a person.
I know it's hard. I was talking to this same friend, and I was talking about pro-life stuff, and he goes, well, it's just getting kicked back down to states' rights. And I go, God damn it. I love you so much. How can we differ so broadly on this thing that I, see as being like an inherent human right, and him seeing it completely differently, right? And so I don't know, how do you even like continue being friends with people like that? How do you parse that out?
I don't know. And I understand why on social media people be like, you just got to cut these people out of your life. Like enough is enough. And also, if we all do that, then what is left? What is left of like the threadbare fabric of our society? I mentioned on social media that I had moved to Arizona, and someone was like, how could you handle it with the politics? I'm like, well, one, if you only live in a place, especially like, upper middle class white people, if we only live in liberal white people, if we only live in the places where that we think reflect our beliefs, like, what about the rest of the world? Like think a little bit outside of yourself too. I brought 3, blue voters to this state.
Yeah.
3 adult, but 5, my in-laws moved here. And, I think there's something to be said for that. And also, everywhere you go, there are horrible people, and everywhere you go, there are wonderful people. And I moved from a blue state, a progressive state, Minnesota, which also in 2020 had, I don't know, does anyone remember what happened in 2020 in Minneapolis? And not the first Black man to be murdered by the Minneapolis Police Department. But that is a state built on what Minnesota nice, right?
Yeah.
And always consistently voted a best place to live for people like me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it had always had those same issues. And I think when we think of a place as good or bad based on what we believe people believe and not on how those issues impact people, it's just a very, very simplistic way of looking at things, which obviously I love, because who doesn't love a blanket statement? Who doesn't love for things to be, simple and cut and dry and black and white and like, you're good, I'm bad, you're good, I'm good, you're bad, one of the two. And like it's just never that easy. It's just never that easy.
Yeah, I mean, I moved from Montreal, Canada, which is in Quebec, which is pretty much a socialist province, to what I thought was maybe more of a purple state than it actually is. I think there are more conservative folks here than I thought. There was a guy driving around Flagstaff with the license plate, not bumper sticker, FU 46.
Oh, that's so much dedication. Yeah. There's a person rolling through to my Walgreens with a fuck Joe Biden flag. And I'm like, oh.
What I like about the license plate is that they submitted it, and somebody at the AZ dot, was like, yeah, this is good. This, I don't know what this means, but it's good. Or I know what it means and it's still good.
Yep.
And for everybody who doesn't know, Joe Biden is the 46th president.
Yeah. Joe Biden is the 46th president of these United States. And, if you, the team from my podcast was down here in March, and we were driving, to get lunch or something. And we drove by the Stop the Steal protest where, the independent, investigators or independent, there had been plenty of investigation into the idea that the 2020 election had been stolen, and specifically in Arizona, that there were fraudulent votes, that, blah, 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 and none was found. And yet there were still people out there protesting, and I was filled with absolute rage.
Yeah.
I really was. I was filled with rage. And yet if I had stopped the car, gotten my audio kit and interviewed them, I think all of them believe that no, they are the defenders of this country. They are doing this to protect us. Yeah. I'm so interested in people who think and study about the ways that we are so committed to being divided, because maybe we were always like this. I wouldn't know. I was, I'm just a baby. I'm 39 years old.
Me too. When's your birthday?
I'm new here, December 28th.
Okay. Everybody send Nora gifts.
Yeah. December 28th. Worst time for a birthday. I think a Christmas birthday would be better than a 3 days after Christmas birthday. just one girl's opinion, just one Capricorn's opinion. But I wouldn't know, right? Like I was only, socially conscious, in like maybe the past decade.
Yeah.
But
if that
but
for me.
I have to think that like social media for all the ways. And by the way, what is this, like an original thought? No, everybody knows this, but like just the way that this tool that was brought to us, the internet, brought to us from the heavens, meant to connect us. We all thought, wow, you can get any information you want at any time. And like, this is where it brought us is so sad. It's so sad. And that is why like the most impact I think that we can have is not going to be like how we espouse our beliefs online and publicly, but how we show up in our communities. And that is something that I want to do so much better at. Local politics are not interesting, and they're so important and so impactful. Knowing your neighbors, even if their dogs are named Trigger and Buckshot, is so important. Like for everybody who's like, let's cut these people out of our lives. Let's never speak to them again. If your car breaks down on the side of the freeway, if you're, if you're, I don't know, in these sort of desperate situations where like you really are relying on the kindness of strangers, you're not, I don't know, like I do think that people do have more in common than we want to believe. Okay. And that like that sort of human connection can change people. I don't know why we got started talking on this. I'm sorry, Sean.
No, this is great. This is great. Although I want to ask you, if you were driving down dark country road and you saw a pickup truck broken down on the side of the road with a "Fuck Joe Biden" flag, are you stopping to help them out?
How is it's nighttime?
It's daytime.
Oh, it's daytime, and is it a man?
It's a man. Yeah, isn't it always a man?
I'm gonna imagine. What kind of car does he have?
It's a pickup truck.
It's a pickup truck. I'm gonna assume that a man with a pickup truck knows more about cars than I could, but I would stop and say, "Do you need me to call someone?" I probably wouldn't get out of my car. Yeah, but I would stop and say, "Do you need me to call someone?"
You roll your tinted window down 1 inch.
I'd roll my tinted window down and say, can I, like, are you okay? Do you need? I probably would. And if only to say to him, at the end, I'm a unstable liberal, and I was happy to help you.
Well, okay, maybe this is a good time to introduce yourself.
Yeah. And obviously, like, that is my privilege. I'm white, all these like sort of caveats for that. And I don't believe that people need to put themselves in like dangerous situations and interact with people who do wish them harm. I just also, I think most people aren't like actively like hateful, although those people do exist. And the internet has shown us that too. The internet has shown us that there are some people who are vile and violent and, but I don't think that's most people. I just don't think that's most people. Anyway, Sean, what else?
Well, so the problem with the internet is that you do see a lot of violence, and then you sort of get really scared that you are surrounded by these people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's actually true. I think for the most part, Americans are good people. And when you were walking by or driving by the Stop the Steal thing, I was at the, not at the same time maybe, but I was at the pro-life rally protest in Flagstaff, and there were people driving by going, look at these heathens, look at these murderers, right? Like,
yes.
And they think that they're doing the best thing, which is preserving life, so that every little potential heartbeat can beat a full life's worth of heartbeats.
Yep. And then be born into a world where, like, I don't know, there's huge economic insecurity and, no safety nets for each other and
water.
It's so astonishing. And I do think that is like also the complication of being a person, right? Is this imperfect thought and these imperfect beliefs too. But yeah, they're looking at you, they're looking at me, they're looking at us being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And it's like, well, there's too much to list, frankly.
There's a lot wrong with everybody.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
And there's a lot right with everybody. So here, let me just switch. I want to switch gears here to this thing that I listened to. Do you know Sam Harris?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he has an app, meditation app called Waking Up, and in there he also is having conversations with people, and he has these little modules. And there was one about happiness, which I think is kind of apropos to what we're talking about, and because I've been struggling with feeling happy for about a long time now. I don't actually. Okay. Side note: you remember when we did you had the Valentine's Day special, and you asked me to be your guest. Okay, you probably don't know this, and this is sort of a good reminder to other people that you don't know what's going on in people's lives. But so this was on Valentine's Day that we did it, or the day before? It was on Valentine's.
So yeah,
it was on Valentine's Day. The day before Valentine's Day, where there was a special with you and all of your folks, and I was on there. My girlfriend and I broke up.
Oh, man.
We had a 4-hour Zoom ceremony because it was a long distance breakup. And we didn't break up on that day because I had commitments. We broke up the day before. Right. And so you just never know what is going on with people in their life.
Yeah. 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 That's what, when I walked into Walgreens, and into that Walgreens where the guy was flying two flags, Trump 2024 and fuck Joe Biden. I walked in, and everyone in this Walgreens, it was the middle of the day, Sean. So the people at that Walgreens are, who knows? It's the middle of a Tuesday. Why was I there? Because we didn't have any Diet Coke, and at 1 p.m. I get a Diet Coke every day, ice cold, out of the fridge. We don't have a fridge right now, so it's in a cooler. And I was like, I cannot go without this Diet Coke. It is like my treat for the day. So I drove up to Walgreens to get it, and everybody in that Walgreens was so sad looking, me, myself included, right? I was like, oh my God, this Walgreens is filled with people who are just going through something. I have no idea. I have no idea what that guy's life is like. Okay. I have no idea what brought him to that point, to those belief systems. But if I did not know that was his car, and I don't know whose car that was, what person I saw, but there was not a single person in there who I would have been like, man, fuck you. Right. And everyone was really, it's and it was one of those days where the cash register isn't working. And so the whole line of people has to negotiate with each other. Oh, do you have cash? No. Oh, you need this thing. Can I blah, blah, blah. Everyone there, in this little microcosm, this little micro community, was connecting with each other. And all I could think of was one of you is driving this car and I'm me.
Do you think that people are doing the best they can?
I think people are doing the best they can. I think people are doing the best they can. And the fact is that some people's best is just not good. It's just not good. And sometimes my best is even worse. And that is a hard thing to understand and to accept. And I have days where I don't accept it. And I just want perfection, mostly from myself, but often from other people. But yeah, I absolutely think people are doing the best that they can with what they have and what they know. And there are always sort of outliers to this. There are there are very few, but they happen. There are evil people in the world.
Yeah,
right?
murderers. They're the best. Maybe they're being the best murderers that they can be.
They're being the best evil person that they can be. But I think even, I had a difficult relationship with my dad. My dad's dead, and he's been dead for almost 7 years. And I would say the past 18 months, the past maybe 2 years, I've come to have so much compassion for him and for the fact that he went to fight an unjust war. He went to Vietnam when he was 17 years old. His dad had to sign a permission slip so that he could enroll in the Marines, so that he wouldn't be drafted. So he would have some modicum of control. And then he came back to an unfeeling country, and where we didn't know about trauma, or we didn't care about it, and had to just sort of do the best he could with what he had. And same with his alcoholic, abusive father, who also had moments of just sparkling brilliance and love for his 9 children. I don't think you have 9 children. I mean, you're a Catholic, you don't believe in birth control. That's one thing, but you don't have 9 children and not love them, right. Not want to be a good dad. And I don't know. I do. Yes. To answer your question, I do think people are doing their best, and to have compassion for yourself when you are not at your best. My past, Sean, is filled with just unhinged, like lunacy, mistakes, interpersonal conflicts where I'm like, oh my God, I was the asshole. Holy shit. Wow. That was me. And to have even compassion for yourself, which I have like basically none, almost none. But I'm learning 2 years into therapy, into this specific therapy, to even look at like those versions of myself and be like, oh, buddy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to have screaming matches with my ex-girlfriend on Mission Street in San Francisco where I would yell obscenities at her and tell her I hated her. Yeah.
It's like, did you think you were like, I don't know, like when you did that, were you like, wow, I can't wait to be like somebody's worst boyfriend ever? No.
No, I was just doing the best I could. And I had zero conflict resolution strategies, zero. And that's actually why we went into therapy. Therapist was like, wow, you guys are really bad at this. Let me help you. Yeah. And P.S., Sean, you're an alcoholic. So maybe you want to lay off the sauce. And I was like, sure. Okay. That's how I got sober.
Interesting you should say that. Like, not what I came here for, doctor.
No.
Not what I...
No, and he did it real gently, because I think if he had told me you're an alcoholic, I would have told him to go fuck himself, and we never would have seen me again. And instead, he did his job, kindly and softly, and was able to get me to get there.
That's a good therapist.
And go.
You and I have talked about this before. Like, how do you learn how to be a person?
I have a note here. It says, we learn on each other.
Yeah.
You said that last time we talked.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? It's like, we're just sort of like out there, and it's like, well, I guess I'll just have this, and I guess I'll just scream at you until you feel horrible, and then I'll feel worse. And then, I wonder if that's the right way to do it. Maybe not. Like,
we'll make up. Hopefully we'll have sex. Yeah. We'll have makeup sex. We'll forgive each other.
And we'll be closer because we went through this thing, which was, the thing we went through was us.
Well, so to answer your question, I think role models helps, some self-awareness and some therapy, and also understanding that the experiences that we have in life shape who we are today. And so hopefully we learn from those experiences. I don't believe in mistakes. Okay, real quick, we're halfway through. Why don't you just introduce yourself halfway in the...
whoopsie daisy. Okay, I'm Nora McInerny. I am the host and creator of the podcast Terrible, Thanks for Asking. And I'm the author of several funny books about sad or difficult things, including my new book of essays, which is called Bad Vibes Only, which is out in October 2022.
I just got it in the mail. Haven't read it. Picked it up yesterday. It's been sitting in my P.O. box for 3 or 4 weeks. But so your publishers did everything right. I did everything wrong. The book's called...
I love going to my P.O. box, and yet I will forget it exists for weeks at a time.
Do you get a lot of like listener mail?
I get some. I really don't get as much as I did when it would go to American Public Media, which also then I would never get it. Like I would sometimes, like a stack of mail would appear, and I was like, where was this? Like, because I wasn't a real employee, so like I didn't have a mailbox, and I don't think anyone knew what to do with it. But I get some listener mail. I get a lot of books. I get a lot of books from different publishers.
Does that stress you out?
Getting books?
Yeah, because then you're like, oh, I have to read one more book.
Yeah, I think also like I always say to people, I'm like, I can't like promise anything. And also like my to be read pile is like looming in just off camera. And there are things that I like definitely want to read. I definitely want to support. And I know I won't get to in time. And that does stress me out, because I know as an author, as anybody, right? As any person who is creating anything, you're like, I made this thing. I like really want people to find it and connect with it. And I always want to be the person who's helping to support work that touches me, that I believe in. And there's so much of it. Yeah. There's so much of it.
Yeah. I stopped reading self-help, and I stopped apologizing about that. I used to really be into it, and I go, I don't know. I'm still like talking about the books I read 10 years ago.
Yep. Yep. And there are books that I'm like, I will, like all of my Pema Chodron books. I'm like, I think all the wisdom for the ages is in that Zen Buddhist wisdom. And I don't know if I need any more.
No, I think it's good. I think we're good. I'm also, you can't tell this, but I'm wearing a Fuck Vibes t-shirt.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So can you tell me about why Bad Vibes Only?
God, Bad Vibes Only is, whenever I walk into a Home Goods, a TJ Maxx, a suburban home, a coffee shop, you will always be inundated with the phrase good vibes only. Yeah. It's slightly outdated and yet it persists, right? It's sort of from like peak Pinterest culture, peak Instagram culture, this idea that, like just here for the good energy. I cannot think of anything that makes me feel less welcome than that sentiment. Yeah. I walked into my friend's mom's house on Saturday and she had a little planter that said good vibes only. And I was like, I will see myself out. Yeah. I will see myself out of here. But all of my work, I think, kind of has a theme, which is a little sprinkle of sadness, even on the happiest moments, and also like levity in the hardest moments. So Bad Vibes Only is an essay collection. It's filled with stories and reflections on modern life, where the vibes are, I would say, a mixed bag at best. Stories about aging, about parenting, about living in the age of the internet and the era of the personal brand, and the not even dichotomy of modern life, but the blender of modern life, which is that things are rough, even when they're wonderful.
Yeah, and that lends itself to actually what's happening in reality. Right? Like good vibes only is an unwillingness to see the breadth of experiences that life is going to give you. And a lot of those experiences are really hard, really shitty, super traumatic, very sad. I mean, I just came out of what I would call maybe a 6-month depression. And you're not seeing that. I'm not showing you that on Instagram. That is not part of my brand. I do not cry on camera. Not because I don't want to, just because I don't know, I find it a little cringy, but it's like vulnerability porn. But, it is. Yeah. My life is not good vibes only. There's a lot of disappointing vibes. I'm not really happy where I'm at. I'm not happy with my body. I'm not happy with my living situation. I miss my friends in Montreal. My career, I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, it's a cool career, but like, what's next? So there's a lot of uncertainty in my life and in everybody's life. And so for anyone to say good vibes only is to saying that you are not recognizing the breadth of life experiences that you are probably having right now.
Yeah. And like you said, it's so normal. Even like the people who have, a lot of good things going, it is the experience of life is not just one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the internet lends itself really well to only showing a curated side of someone. And so I got rid of my personal Instagram because I was seeing all of the stuff that I wasn't doing. All of the peak life experiences, van life, and big mountain bike trips and heli skiing. And I'm like, why aren't I doing any of those things? And I just felt bad about it. So I just uninstalled it on my phone. And now my Instagram is only colleagues and they're all talking about relationships and it's quite boring. And so I don't scroll it because I don't need any more relationship stuff. So I have to like set myself up in ways. It's just hard. It's hard to see people doing all the stuff that you want to be doing, even though you're doing some of it. It's just maybe less glamorous.
Yeah.
So you had the thought, it went poof, but I think we are talking about this idea of like having unlimited access to everybody's lives, and then also to be like cataloging our experience. There's just so many things that I've been working diligently on keeping my private life private, especially as the audience grows.
Yep.
I think that there just needs to be some special moments that, most special moments that are not for the internet to see.
Yeah, I think like the idea that like our lives are content is so strange, and also something that I participated in, maybe realizing it, maybe also not realizing it, definitely not realizing the implications of it. And specifically too, and you'll get to this chapter when you start the book, but like, especially with my kids, I posted about so much back in the simpler times of the internet in, the 2010s, even up till I would say like 2018, I put all of our lives on the internet. I was blogging about my husband having cancer on Tumblr. I was posting my, the first year of widowhood on Instagram, the second year, remarrying, with Matthew, blending a family. I was doing that for, I would have told you like, just because like, oh, like I don't really care like who sees it. Right. Like, and I'd say the first year of widowhood, especially I was posting because like I had lost my witness. I'd lost the person that I shared my life with, the person that I could like come home and be like, okay, so this happened and this happened and this happened. So the internet did that for me. What a beautiful thing for a bunch of strangers to do for and with me. And it was a way to like, to fill myself up. And I have, my addiction, which, it has been many, many things throughout the years, like currently is the internet. Like the internet is a huge problem for me, like, and has been since the moment it arrived in our basement in South Minneapolis. The minute I felt that rush of like connection and like meeting somebody and like, and having my thoughts validated or questioned or, catfishing an adult man who didn't know he was like cybersexing. Like he didn't know he was cybering like, a bunch of 12-year-old girls, or maybe he did. That rush, that dopamine, that just constant sort of like drip has been an issue for me. It really has. And so you curating like your feed and making sure you only see things that are relevant to your work, that you're not constantly comparing yourself to another person. I do need to do that. I have to do like extreme things. Like, I can only have an hour. On my computer, like those websites are blocked. So I can't like do a workaround and like get on them on my computer instead of on my phone. For a while, like, the Apple iOS has, a screen time limit, but like all you have to do is like type in a code and you can get back to it. Well, I made my husband set the code, so I couldn't do that. Or I would say like, okay, I only get an hour of it. And then I would blow through it and be like, oh yeah, you can have 15 more minutes. Yeah, you can have an hour. You know what? We'll just use it all day. That's fine. And I had a conversation with, an addiction doctor who said like, well, all addiction gives you something. So what is that giving you? What is that giving you? And can you get it from somewhere else?
Yeah, that's interesting. One of my questions, to you was, what's your relationship to your phone? And I know your relationship to your phone. That's why I'm asking the question. I have a very similar relationship. Yeah. I set an hour for Instagram. I blow through it. And then I go unlock for 15 minutes for the rest of the day. I don't let myself just do indefinitely, but I want that reminder every 15 minutes that I'm a loser, that I have no willpower, that I can't do it. So the curating the Instagram feed has helped a little bit, but what I've found out is that, much like your therapist or the addiction specialist said, it's giving you something. What is it giving you? I found out that when I get rid of TikTok or some problematic, app, I'm going to fill it with something else. Now, all of a sudden, I'm reading blog posts. Now, all of a sudden, I love Twitter. Never liked Twitter, love Twitter now, I'm going to find some other way to fill it up. So what I'm trying to do a little bit these days is to listen to podcasts more because I'm actually learning something. It's more engaging. And I'm doing something else while I'm listening to a podcast. I'm walking around outside. I'm like tidying up, putting away laundry. That feels more productive. Go outside. Leave your phone
like how
behind.
much of my life has been spent like over a rectangle is really alarming to me.
Yeah.
Like since 2008, I think I got an iPhone. It's like, I've just been like,
Yeah. Yeah. I like to leave my phone behind every now and then. It doesn't happen very often, but that's like some sort of strategy to sort of curb that a little bit. and to make my phone boring. Like when I got rid of TikTok and I got rid of my personal Instagram feed and I got rid of all these other Facebook, I got rid of all that stuff. My phone is boring now. It's like, you know.
Yeah, I love that. The thing is like, I don't know if TikTok doesn't do the same thing that Instagram does because no one on TikTok knows or cares who you are.
Right.
Like even people who follow you, right? Because like the feed is so chaotic. It's so random. It's constantly trying to like, steal your attention and bring it to something else, like decide, like sort of confuse you. I would say the best example of this is I was watching TikToks with my son who's 9. And it was like one of those beautiful sort of video scenes of like, a flower, like sort of in the wind and a poem on screen about grief and loss. And we're both like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I swipe and it's immediately like, I'm going to show you how we made cookies in prison. And I was like, what? Like, it's just this like wrecking ball through your attention span. And I don't get the same sort of like drip that I got from Instagram, which is like, oh, these people like me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
Instagram for me, I mean, I'm addicted to the comments and the DMs, right? And I'm so close to, I am like a perpetual lone wolf. I've never hired anybody for anything except for my podcast editing. I work alone. I don't have an assistant. I don't collaborate very well with people. I'm just like, I don't know. I just, I'm like terminally unique. But I'm so close to hiring an assistant to read one of the many tasks that they would do is read the comments, read the DMs, because I use the comments to test the temperature of the water. Is what I wrote on point? And I think now at this point, I can sort of assume that most of what I write is on point because most of the people that follow me love what I do. And so they're going to, for the most part, agree with me. But every now and then I'm scared that I post something and I'm way off the mark, But those comments and those DMs, they're dopamine hits. They feel good. They're validation. And
they are.
That's kind of why I post every day, I mean, also that's a great way to grow your account, by the way, if anyone's curious. Consistency and value. Those are the 2 things that you need to do to grow your account.
Oh, that's probably why my account does not grow. Cause I'm like, I don't know. Like, if I think of something, but I'm like you, I'm always like, God, I don't know. Like who would, like, I would have a hard time. Like there are people even that I know who like, there's someone who manages their whole social media, right? Like who does, I'm like, I just like, you at least have like a niche. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why people are following me. It's a real hard, like no one's, I don't know what would bring.
I mean, you're
account.
Super dynamic personality. I'll tell you why. You're very approachable. You are hilarious. You're hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
You are like, an everyday person's influencer, right? Like the whole like normal shit around my house series is gold, right? Yeah. I mean, you're a fantastic writer. You're, I find probably one of the funnier writers that I've ever read. So I love No Happy Endings.
Thank you.
I can hear your voice when I'm reading. Right. So yeah. So there's a lot of reasons why people come to you. And I actually asked my audience, do you have any questions for Nora? And I got, 8 questions about being a widow and grief. Being a widow.
About being what?
So I think a lot of people come to you for that as well, right? Because that is not something that we talk about. That is not something that there are a lot of approachable resources, right? We want a role model who has been through it that they can relate to. And I think you're that. So if you were curious, I think that's why people follow you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always so interesting too. Cause I'm like, I don't know. Do I talk about that? I don't know. But yeah, I appreciate all of that. I think also I'm just like, I don't have like a consistent, I don't even know what I'm going to post ever. So I like that there are people who are willing to come along on a chaotic trip through.
Yeah, you have a really like fascinating brain. I was just scrolling through your Instagram. By the way, it has 167,000 followers, so it's not like you're not growing it.
Oh, really?
Is that not true? Is that?
Oh, okay. Well,
is that
thank
not,
you.
Oh, you haven't
thank
checked
you, everybody. No, I like.
Sorry, 153. 153. That's still a lot.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. That's wow. That's great.
So speaking of, do you want to answer a few questions at my audience?
Oh yeah.
So a lot of it is
yeah.
around, okay, so being a widow and dating as a widow. Did you date a bunch of
Yes.
people after Aaron, or did you just fall in love with Matthew?
No, I did not date a bunch of people. I had some experiences. I had some experiences, and I was definitely not looking to ever have a partner or fall in love ever again. It's like if you have it, I had it and it was good. And I was like, literally, if it does not happen for me again, that's fine. That's legitimately fine. I have a good life. I will continue to have a good life. I can get my physical needs met. There are plenty of people who are willing to do that. And I can just have my own life and my kid and a good life. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I know it's so annoying to be like, when I wasn't looking, it found me, but it didn't find me. My friend Mo found it for me. And she was also widowed. And she had me over. It was like a year after Aaron died. The fall in Minnesota brings that into my body. That is one reason why I moved to Arizona. It is not haunted for me the way that Minnesota is with my entire life, not just Aaron's death, my dad's death, like that. It's like my whole life is just there, sort of like, all these different versions of me just like sort of existing in the same place. And I know that's comforting for a lot of people, but it really wasn't for me. And that time of year had descended. I felt it in my body. I was so miserable. I was like literally acting like a crazy, because I was a crazy person. I was literally acting like a crazy person. I was like getting in huge fights on Twitter with strangers about like things that don't matter, like posting insane stuff, like going nuts. And she was like, please come over to my house, bring some stuff. We're going to have a fire. And I love burning things. And we had a fire and she burned a bunch of her husband's shit. I burned all like the explanation of benefits that you get from, health insurance here in the States. Like it's not a bill, but it could be. And the back gate opened and this guy walks in and I'm married to him now. I'm married to him. And it happened really, really quickly. I don't know if it wasn't Matthew. I don't know. I don't know if it would be anyone. I don't know. I think I can't say. There's no way of sort of like sliding doors that, but I wasn't ready. Certainly, like whenever people are like, you should be I was in a horrible place. I was in a horrible place mentally. I was so unwell, and I don't think I had a chance to start healing, a chance to even start really feeling the depth of that grief until I met Matthew. And I had this safe place truly to experience this stuff because he didn't know me before. He had no expectation of who I should be, who I was, like anything like that. He hadn't Googled me. He doesn't use the internet. He could have cared less about any of that, even to this day. And he was so present. And I think he could be present because he too had been through something horrible. He'd been through divorce, betrayal, like these big, big, big kinds of pain. And he had been alone. He had spent a lot of time alone. He was also okay, like being alone for the rest of his life. He was like, I got 2 kids. I got a career. I have friends. I'm going to be okay. Neither of us needed each other. And I don't know how I would have navigated like truly dating and like going out there. And people always ask like, well, when do you tell a person? And I had a conversation with, you should actually talk to her, Allison Raskin. She has OCD. She's like a mental health writer. And she wrote this book called Overthinking About You, like dating with mental illness. And she's wonderful. And she's a friend of mine. And, we were talking about dating with OCD, with anxiety, with all these things. Like, how do you disclose to somebody, that you have like a mental illness or that you have whatever sort of thing that you think might be like a red flag, using that in quotations for another person? Like, when do you disclose that? And it's like, well, what kind of a relationship do you want to have with them? And what relationship do you have with them right now? I always personally, like, widowhood is incurable. Like, it just is. I would have put that on And I did when I was just looking to hook up with somebody. I put that on my Tinder profile and I got no takers, none. But I would want somebody to know that, right? Like I would want somebody to know that. So if I make out with them and start bawling, which definitely happened, they would not be frightened, and I wouldn't want to be like physically intimate, certainly not emotionally intimate with a person who wouldn't be able to handle the fact that my husband died, which seems so nuts to me. But I can also understand why some people that would be something that they're not interested in. The same way, by the way, if somebody would have told me about Matthew, I would have said, not interested. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not interested. A divorced dad of two. No, thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks.
No.
But turns out, yes, please. I think that requires having to drop the fantasy of the ideal perfect relationship. I think if we look at the definition of an ideal perfect relationship, it's certainly not widowed mother of one meets divorced father of two, No,
it's not.
But in reality, that's making for a really fantastic relationship.
It really is. It really is. And I have a person I love right now is going through this horrible divorce, right? Just like thought they would be with this person forever, does not want to get a divorce, is like, no, this is not I don't want this. I want the life that I thought we had, not this. And they said to me, like, who is going to love me now? And like, who's going to love me now? I'm no longer young and hot. I'm like is that a scarred up dolphin? And I was like, ooh, evocative. Like, ooh. I was like, someone will absolutely love you. You are someone's first choice, not somebody's last resort. And yeah. I do believe that. I do believe that. And I think if we I don't know, there was nothing about me that said I am good with myself and I'm ready to sort of like attract what I need. At all. Like there was nothing about me that was in that kind of space. Like I was in such a weird, bad place and I didn't really see, I just couldn't see myself ever feeling any kind of way. So I will say it was work. It was work to like build what we have, obviously. And it was also like the easiest job I've ever had was like, Oh, like I get it now. Like I get it. Like this is a thing that we can do together and we can decide like what this relationship means to us, like what like building another marriage would mean to us. Cause we both had two very, very different first marriages. So what about this will be different this time? Like I love Matthew so much. My marriage to him is so different than my marriage to Aaron. And in part that's because two different men and because two different Noras. Two very different Noras. So, I love, you said something like that on the internet recently too, which is like, if you can drop your expectation or adjust your expectation of what like the ideal relationship looks like, what like the ideal I don't know a single person who has their ideal life. And in fact, many of the people who I was filled with so much envy, Sean, because I would look at their lives and I'd be like, well, there's your alive husband holding your kid, his own child, living like none of them have the life that I was perceiving them to have. Like life comes for us all in different times and in different places.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And also kind of steeped in reality is that nothing is ideal and we make the best of what we have. This brings me back to this thing that I had started right before I told you that, before Valentine's Day, I broke up. My girlfriend and I broke up. I was on this track of Sam Harris and this happiness module that he's talking about. And there was some other person talking about how to be happy. And what I got from it is that the idea that most of us have is that when we have the things that we want, we're finally going to be happy, right? And you and I both know that's not true, because we do get the thing, and then we go, okay, now what? What's next, right? That happiness is short-lived, and so what he's suggesting, which I find fantastic, and which I've been trying to do, is to want the things you already have
The book of Sheryl Crow. The book of Sheryl Crow. Cite your sources. Dan Harris, Soak Up the Sun. Okay.
Okay, tell me more.
Soak Up the Sun. It's not having what you want. It's wanting what you have. That is the gospel of Sheryl.
There we go. Okay, perfect. So she said it first.
She said it first in one of the greatest songs/music videos of the early 2000s. And yeah, I think about that all the time. That song, that music video, her hair, that lyric, that idea. I think about that all the time because Sean, if somebody brought present you into a time capsule to meet past you and you told past you, this is what I'm doing. And like, this is what life is like. Past you would be like, oh my God, great. I can't wait for that. That's going to like, I'm going to be so happy when I have that. And current you, current me, current so many of us are like, yeah. Like we metabolize like our joys, our happiness, our successes, whatever we had wanted. We metabolize it so fast. And what question do we love to ask people? What's next?
Yeah.
Now what?
Oh, well, thanks for asking, Nora. It's a leather sectional for me. That's what's next. That's what's going to make me happy.
That's what's going to make you happy. 100%. Right before this call, Sean, I was on a line looking for a different like computer monitor setup, which obviously would solve all my problems. And if I had that, then I would be able to do my work and I wouldn't get distracted because like the monitor, who knows? But it's like, again, everything in my life, everything in this house, everything in my career, everything that I have is something I wanted at one point in time, is something that I thought would be the thing that like did it, that completed me. And yeah, wow. That is a daily struggle, I would say, like to want what you have.
Yeah. I do it. I try to do it more often now with this house, with living in the woods, with, all of the life situations. Also, my friend was saying my life right now, as it stands, is someone's dream life.
100%.
Okay. So if you were to tell one piece of advice for people who are dating while widowed.
Oh, don't apologize for it. Don't try to minimize it. Don't try to make somebody else like feel more comfortable with it. I think if it feels like you have to hide it from this person, that you have to minimize your pain for this person, it's not your person. The right person will be able to hold their love for you and your love for your dead person together. I'm not going to say it's always going to be, perfect and easy. People always want to know, like, is Matthew jealous? Is Matthew like, he can't love this? And Matthew's like, no, mostly I just feel like really guilty. Like, like they're allowed to have their own feelings about it, certainly. But like, he's like, I feel bad. He's like, this guy died and I like get, I get you and I get Ralph and, I'm like, yeah, I get it. And it can also be like, it can be whatever you want it to be. Like it can be whatever you want it to be. I have a friend, Mo, who introduced me to Matthew, who is like in love. And she's like, yeah, I'm still never going to live with him. We can get a duplex and that will be my life. I'm like, beautiful. Like you get to sort of every relationship, after a divorce, after a breakup, after being widowed, whatever, you still get to define how you want that relationship to be. So.
That's beautiful. Amazing. People want guidelines, but there are no guidelines for shit like this. There's no timeline. That doesn't mean that you can't meet people while grieving. It doesn't mean that you have to wait for the grief to be over before you meet people. It doesn't have to look a particular way, and it's not going to look a particular way because I think grief is pretty messy.
It is. And like, it'll keep showing up in different ways, and like you will evolve, your pain will evolve, your sorrow will evolve, your relationships will evolve. And if anything, I think that being widowed is kind of a superpower. I think having your heart broken, having your life destroyed in any way can really be a superpower. It can really open you up to the humanity of everyone around you if you let it. Like you can close yourself around your experiences. I wouldn't blame you if you do. You could just be like, nope, I went through this and no one will ever be able to relate. Or it can be a mechanism to help you relate to, love, connect with, have compassion for anybody.
Yeah. Okay, Nora, where can we find you?
Okay, so I have a website called noraborealis.com. That's not my last name. It's a play on the Aurora Borealis. I'm from Minnesota. The Aurora Borealis is the Northern Lights. I come from an era of the internet where you had a screen name, okay? So I have a website. I'm on Instagram, Nora Borealis, and my books are wherever you get books. My next one is called Bad Vibes Only. You can pre-order it online. I know people are like, oh God, pre-order. I'm so tired of authors talking about it too, but it's helpful. It's helpful if you love books, if you love, if you love art of any kind, like supporting it in any way that you can is great. And you can do that at wherever you get your books. By the way, if there's a small bookstore that you love and you're on their website and you're like, oh, they don't have this book, you can just call them and be like, oh, will you order this book for me? And they'll do it. And then the book shows up. And when it comes out and you're so surprised because, a version of you from 3 months ago ordered it. And yeah, it'll be out in, I think, 58 days, not to be too precise. 58 days from this conversation we're having now. It comes out on October 11th. And I think it's my favorite book yet. And do I say that every book? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm excited to meet you in person. I can't believe we live in the same state.
I know. I can't wait. Yeah, we're gonna book a weekend in Flagstaff, I think in November. So I will keep you posted.
Nora McInerny, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your time. Last question. You know this question. What does love mean to you?
Oh God. Oh, what does love mean to me? God. I had this, I just found this photo, and I think I actually just put it in Ralph's room, so I don't have it on me, of us at Salvation Mountain out in the desert outside of Palm Springs. It is like this big sort of like, art installation. They just painted the desert. They literally physically painted these giant rocks like a mountain, all these formations with paint, like brightly colored paint. Have you been to Salvation Mountain?
No.
Worth a road trip. Gorgeous. I mean, every time you see it, you're like, I don't know if this will be here the next time I come back. And it's painted with some sort of like, I don't know all the origins of it, so I apologize for that. But it's painted with some sort of like religious phrases, of course. But I have this picture of Aaron in front of Salvation Mountain, in front of this part of the mountain where somebody painted God is love. And I really think that like love is God. Like love is God. And that is the way that we, are connected to each other and to something bigger than ourselves. And that's what love means to me. And when you feel it, like when you really feel it, like at least when I feel it, when I truly feel love, when I allow myself to feel the depth of love for myself, for other people, for the world at large, like I do feel just tapped into something ancient and true and infinite.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you, Sean. You're the greatest.